hoping the Twin Cities get ready to start.
Yeah, but we have no control over that.
All right, welcome to the January 11th meeting of the Murfreesboro City Council. I guess we should say Happy New Year. We haven't gotten together. This is the first time we've gotten together since this new year. So, pardon?
Can't hear.
All right.
Would this be a good time to sing?
How about now?
Yep.
Better? All right. Well, as we pray, we'll pray for our sound system. So if you'll bow your heads, please. Father, I thank you for this chance that we get together, get back together this New Year's, for the many things that we've been able to say that we're thankful for in 2017. For the challenges that we had in 2017, I'm thankful for how this city weathered the storm in many different areas. I'm thankful for what we're going to do in 2018, for how we're poised for success and what this city is, and the residents who are here and what they believe in and how they want to see this city succeed. I pray for this council that in this 2018 that you bring us together, Lord, that you help us see a common goal and a common thread, that we continue to make the city a better place, that we pray for our employees, our staff, that they continue to lead us in a way that shows who we are and what this city is about. Lord, be with us, bless us, and we love you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into our ceremonial items, Mr. Crumley, I wanted to make sure that you let everyone know, we're supposed to have some bad weather that's coming in tonight. We already have Rutherford County schools are closed. Our Murfreesboro City schools are closed. Providence Christian Academy is closed. So I think that most all of our public and private schools are going to be closed tomorrow. But maybe you could tell our residents what's going to be happening tomorrow with our street department and what they're planning for.
The latest weather update we've received is that it'll begin raining sometime during the middle of the night, change to an icy mix somewhere between 9 and 12 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then go to snow after noontime with 1 to 2 inches of accumulation. 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice is the prediction, and then 1 to 2 inches of snow on top of that. Street department has geared up, as they normally do, to combat the ice and snow on the roadways. They divide the department into 2 shifts, and each of those shifts works a 12-hour period. They'll take to the streets as soon as they see ice beginning to form. We've got ample supplies of salt, having used very little last year, and there's plenty in the sheds for this year. Just as you may have seen on the news, TDOT's not using their brining system because of the rain. We are not using our brining system because of the rain, so it'll be a plow and salt event if it comes. I think all of our preferences is it just avoids us, but if it comes, I think street department's ready.
Okay. Thank you for the update, and thank you for all the street department employees who are going to be working tonight and tomorrow. All right, we've got some special guests tonight, so have a lot of our members of our school board who are here. Dr. Gilbert, see her over there. So I think we have a presentation of Exemplary School District banner.
We do, and I'm going to ask the school board members and also the principals and staff to come up and join me, please. And thank you for giving us this opportunity.
You mean to come down?
Pardon?
You mean to come down?
If you want to come down, that would be great. And then we'd like to have a picture made with everybody in just a few minutes. We do have some folks that couldn't join us tonight. Chair Campbell is working at MTSU ball game, and we have one principal that has an event tonight, and we have a couple others that are sick. So if you look at the list of things that our schools are involved in, you'll understand why they aren't here, because we're busy all the time. So that's a good thing. We're here tonight to thank you and to thank you, Mayor, for your support of Murfreesboro City Schools. We are extremely proud of the people behind us and also of our teachers, our support staff, our parents, the entire community that supports Murfreesboro City Schools. We were named because of the fact that we exceeded our growth expectations for all of our students and in all of our subgroups in math and science. And not only that, but we increased our percentile ranking among the districts in the state as far as math and reading. So we are one of about 48 school districts in the state that were recognized as exemplary districts. In addition, we have 2 schools, Discovery and Scales, that were named reward schools, which means that they were in the top 5% in the state. There were only 59 statewide schools statewide that were named as reward schools for achievement, and 2 of our schools were that. So we are here to celebrate your school system. We're here to celebrate the city school system. I want to thank our board members who are here tonight, Mr. Ballard and Ms. Rainier, who is here, and also Mr. King, and also our principals for being here. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your support. Council, we could not do this without you. We have said that when we come to you, and when we do, it's because we really need something, and you're always there for us. So thank you for supporting the children and supporting Murfreesboro City Schools. And so at this time, if there's a principal who would, I'm going to ask Maria. Maria, representing the principal, she was one of the reward schools as well as Christina with Discovery School. But Maria, I would like for you to talk just a little bit about what the support of the council means to you, the support of the school board, because I'd like for them to just hear it from a principal. And you did not know I was going to do this, and I know that.
But we are so thankful for all the support that our council as well as our school board members give us for each and every one of our schools, as well as the support that we get from our district office. So we thank you for coming out to visit our schools, to listen to us, to our needs, and then for getting us everything that we need so that we can be reward schools and exemplary school districts. So thank you.
And board, I'm going to let you hold the banner and roll it out and present it to the mayor, if you would, please. We would very much appreciate it if this could be put up in somewhere in the rotunda for this month, because it is pretty special.
Mr. Crumley, do we have to get a sign permit to do that?
No, we do not.
All right.
So thank you very much, council.
Come on, let's get Kurt. Formal photo bomb. Hey. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good stuff. Good job. Miss Davis Lewis. Right there at the end.
Hey, thank you. I'm Gene Lloyd. I'm principal at Northfield Elementary.
My name's Robin Newell. I'm the principal at Mitchell Nielsen.
I'm Emily Spencer, and I am the principal at Irma Siegel.
Hello, Christina Maddox, principal of the Discovery School. Good evening, Dr. Kimberly Osborne, principal at Reeves Rogers, also known to my students if they're watching as Mustang Nation.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Garrett from Hopgood Elementary School.
Good evening, Siobhan Davis-Lewis, Cason Lane Academy.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Ortiz, the principal at Bradley Academy.
Maria Johnson, principal of Scales Elementary School.
Thank you. I think I can speak on behalf of the council. There's not a year that goes by that y'all don't make us proud with our school system, and we know that that comes from great leadership, not only from the school board to Dr. Gilbert, but ultimately each of y'all are mayors of your school, and we appreciate what you're doing with our kids in Murfreesboro. It goes to show every year on our test scores, and then really when you interact, I get to see a lot of these kids and build us too on the ball fields and the basketball courts, and we've got some good kids in Murfreesboro. So thank y'all for helping to keep that going. So, and unless y'all want to stay, y'all are welcome to, or y'all are free to go. It's totally up to you guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the day off tomorrow.
Thank y'all. See you.
Thank you. All right, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Have several items. Is there anything that needs to be discussed or removed from the consent agenda?
There's no comments. I move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. You have the minutes of three meetings, the November 2nd, 2017 regular meeting, the November 9th, 2017 regular meeting, and the December 18th, 2017 special meeting.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye, and I missed a note under ceremonial items. We've got a big group here from Leadership Rutherford who's here tonight. Actually got to see them last Tuesday at the Smyrna City Hall, and then y'all actually came back to Murfreesboro to our city council chamber. So if the Leadership Rutherford wouldn't mind standing up so that way we can get y'all on TV, that'd be great. Thank y'all for being here. All right, second readings. We'll consider for passage on second and final reading ordinance 17 OZ 59 to rezone an area zoning area along Manson Pike and Florence Road as planned residential development PRD district, Blackman Village, simultaneous with annexation.
Mayor, we're asking you to defer that
Okay.
for tonight. We
Can I
have
have
some
a-
additional work to do.
Can I have a motion to defer, please?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on second and final reading ordinance 17060, amending Murfreesboro City Code Chapter 4, alcoholic beverages, including liquor, wine, and beer.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for approval or renewal certificate of compliance for a retail liquor store for Mr. M. Patel and Vishal N. Patel at Georgetown Wine and Spirits, 1720 West Northfield Boulevard. Ms. Wright, is everything in order?
It is. They're just meeting their state 2-year requirement.
Okay.
So moved. Because he's so nice, I'm definitely going to second it.
Absolutely. All right. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Veep, you have your certificate. Thank you.
Mayor, if we can go back, my planning director has just informed me that the one that was to be deferred is not on here. Item number 3 was ready for second consideration.
All right. We're regressing, Jim.
Yes,
Going
we
backwards.
are.
All right. I'm going to try to read through where I struck through all this. Consider for passage on second and final reading ordinance 17 OZ 59, a zoning area located along Manson Pike and Florence Road as PRD, Planned Residential Development District, Blackman Village, simultaneous with annexation 2017-435.
Let's move for approval on that.
Second.
Motion is second.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Joy Apanowicz. Am I saying how to? Apanowicz. Okay. I apologize. I didn't want to completely butcher your name. Joyce Apanowicz and Jeff Apanowicz and Grant Apanowicz at Shifty's Liquor and Beer, 225 North Rutherford Boulevard, Suite H. Ms. Wright?
That application is in order as well. They're also meeting the requirement.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. It's approved. Consider for recommendations of the Human Resource Director the revised Employee Handbook, Section 5001, Recruitment, Selection, and Hiring Processes.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As an item for the regular agenda, Human Resources is requesting you approve changes to the Employee Handbook, Section 5001, Hiring Procedures. The policy has not been updated since 1994. However, hiring practices have changed. I sent Mayor and council members a memo outlining the specific changes, but the two major changes is the fact that we moved from paper applications to online applications. The other is to allow department heads the flexibility to extend a new hire's probationary period if they're out on leave for any period of that time, or for police and dispatch trainees 12 months after their training period. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
If there's no questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider recommendations of the acting city manager, property along Medical Center Parkway.
Mayor, while I've got Pam at the microphone, can we just skip to the
Sure, we can move to
the search firm? Because Pam did the majority of the work on this. We're recommending to you tonight the firm of SGR, Strategic Government Resources. They are the executive search firm that has helped the city most recently in the recruitment of an HR director, which resulted in Ms. Russell being selected. We've seen their work. It's very thorough, very detailed. The other firms that submitted proposals are equally well qualified, but our knowledge of SGR and their recent work, I think, lends us to believe that they would do the best job for the city in this search.
We just need a motion.
Yes.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Thank you, Ms. Russell. All right, we'll now consider property along Medical Center Parkway.
Mayor, I think technology has failed me. I don't believe I have a picture to put up on the television screen, but you should be able to pull the diagram of the project up in your packets. We have been talking with several developers on property that the city did not own on Medical Center Parkway, beginning as early as last February, about a senior living project, restricted housing for seniors, on the riverfront of this particular parcel. As the project developed, it has changed leadership in terms of the private developer on the job. As the project has matured, there has been the need for them to look at and offer to purchase additional acreage from the city around the privately held parcel. We think this does make a better project going forward with more complete development by having some of the city's real estate involved in this project. It is adjacent to the new fire station number 4, which is under construction, and the city's corporate headquarters site on the west. Mr. Joe Swanson Jr. is the developer on the project now, and I think Joe can answer any questions you might have about his development on the site. We have asked our typical standard $12 a square foot for gateway property on the majority of the property. There are some lands that are compromised by both floodway and landfill that we have discounted significantly. We are also purchasing from Mr. Swanson the riverfront parcels along his development for the greenway to go across. We've worked during the process to secure with Mr. Swanson that he would submit his entire project, including the private property, through the Gateway Design Review Committee. He has agreed to construct, along with the city, the Warren Street extension that would serve both his development and Fire Station Number 4. He's agreed to build approximately 1,800 feet of greenway with the project. At this point in time, we're not as clear on what development goes along the medical center parkways, but it is zoned mixed use. It will come back through your normal development practices of Planning Commission and the Design Review Committee before any projects get built. Best we can tell until survey, the net of the real estate transaction produces a gain to the city of about $1,634,000. There is also a parcel that Mr. Swanson would like to option from the city for an 18-month period of time. That parcel is at the $12 per square foot and would produce another significant real estate sale at the time Mr. Swanson was exercising his option and closing on that property. If you have questions, we'll be glad to try to field them, both myself from the city side and Mr. Swanson from the development side.
Jim, how will we, there was some 35% language in the property that's adjacent to Medical Center Parkway. Is that still in the notes? And how are we going to make sure that that sort of carries on into the design phase and where we end up? I mean, you know.
Mr. Ives has actually got a draft agreement, sales contract ready for this project. The 35% restriction on residential usage of the buildings that front along Medical Center Parkway would be in that sales contract.
All right. If there's no more questions, I'll say for the record, this is the last piece of Gateway property that I want to sell for anything other than some jobs, and I'll move for approval.
Second. Motion and second. Ms. Wright, you call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, we'll consider recommendations of the acting city manager. You've got, Mr. Crumlin.
Mayor, you heard the presentation on the CIP in your work session just before this meeting. Our recommendation to you is to adopt the 2018 year of the CIP after removing the $5.25 million that we have placed in there for a fiber network for city communications. If you have any discussion on how the hotspot program of significant road improvements around town is to be financed, this would be the right time to do that. When you brought those projects to the forefront during budget last summer, at that time you were thinking about using fund balance to pay for those rather than borrowed money. And so that question is still on the table in front of you now. Any other guidance that you have about particular projects or about totals in general for that 2018 year, we'd recommend you just provide us the guidance and we'll adjust accordingly. With your adoption of the 2017-2018 year, you would trigger the bond issuance process, and we would begin to search for bond counsel, financial consultant, and such to get to the bond market. These projects do contain the same amount of debt. The original CIP presented to you was just $80.1 million. After removal of the fiber communications project, we're down just under $75 million. Again, we're happy to answer any of your questions and recommend you move forward with the 2018 year.
The hotspot program is, the total amount is 1.6?
$1.65 million in the 2018 year.
What interest will we pay on if we borrowed it?
Today, I haven't looked at interest rates in a week or so, but we would probably be between 2.5 and 2.6% on our typical 15-year fixed rate debt.
Jim, you know, we've talked a pretty good bit about this, and in our, you know, and just as recently as 5 o'clock today, our meeting we just had. With our pro forma like it is, you know, would it be appropriate for us to try to go ahead and start the process now to say, can we get this thing down to more like 70 million? So we've already got half of that done. I mean, I don't know if that's, I don't know how that fits into what we need to do as a council to, you know, that's more or less putting that back on the staff's plate to kind of say, what do we have to do to make that happen?
It is certainly appropriate. I think all of our staff would appreciate the opportunity to go back and make reductions if needed. So absolutely, this is the appropriate time to make those kind of changes.
Would we need to defer to do that?
If you can give us a target number you would like for us to get to, then we'll go to work and get down to that number and bring it back at your next council meeting.
Yeah, I think that's just.
Well, if we pay for the hotspot program out of fund balance, then you've given them a little something. So
What's the total for the hotspot?
1.65.
That's for this year. Then it's got a tail of another
$1 million
million and a half or something. And really, I'd be okay with using that 1.6 out of fund balance if we can get the total number down to 70. You know, we're 5.5, 1.5. You know, that's 3 million is all we have to really come. I say it's all we have to come up with. I know that's not easy. Every one of these things.
It's like any budget. It's a prioritization of projects and trying to make the numbers work.
Well, I think that gets our process started on trying to get that convergence moving in a different direction, and is guidance good enough, or do we need to say we want to get it to 70 and come back? Or?
Absolutely. We'll take it back to staff and we'll make some prioritized decisions about where to reduce and bring it back to you in 2 weeks at the $70 million level.
Do we need to vote on that?
do we need any recommendation to move that hotspot program to the?
I think I didn't hear anybody that disagreed with the idea of using fund balance to pay for the hotspot program.
Let's go ahead and do this, though, so we have it on record. Can I get a motion if we want to do the fund? If we want to do the hotspot, let's have a motion to pay hotspot out of fund balance.
I make that motion.
Motion and a second. Ms. Wright, if you'll call the roll.
Who made the second?
Kurt did.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. And now, from council, is 70 million, asking staff to work on 70 million, is that agreeable? Kurt, Eddie, Rick, I'm good with that. Bill, Madeline.
We'll have it back to you in 2 weeks.
There you go. All right, thank you. Thank you for the earlier work with all the department heads.
Do we need to also address the flexibility issue with? I mean, you know, one thing I thought about that. I'm sorry, with the public training facility.
Yes.
One thing I thought about that is if we create an opportunity to discuss the manner in which we deal with that and build it, perhaps we don't need to be flexible with that.
Let us go do some further homework. In my mind, just as we showed you this evening where we've moved some dollars between projects and the borrowed funds, knowing that our commitment to you was we would not increase the total, but make priority judgments if we needed some additional dollars for the training center, we would make those priority judgments and bring them back and report them to you on that kind of transfer document like we did this afternoon.
And if the council is acceptable, I do think, you know, based on our earlier discussion, and really would rely on Mr. Tyndall and on this legally, for you all to really look at our different options that we have at the current state of the project on, you know, stay the course, make adjustments, and let us know which direction makes the most sense regarding construction manager at risk, or, you know, where we are with the fire tower and moving through with that project.
Staff will look at the methods of acquiring buildings and come back with some recommendations for you.
Well, not just generally speaking. I think generally speaking we need to do that, but I think specific to this project.
Specifically on Doug Young Training Center.
Yeah, if
yes.
we can, if it's possible to do that within two weeks, where we can have something where, I'm prepared to make a motion tonight. In my mind, I'd rather you guys go,
Now, the fire tower is,
It's under construction.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm saying everything past where we've already agreed,
Talking to Chief, I think we definitely have maybe, whether it be an opportunity to discuss architecture services, construction services, and make sure those are aligning with our philosophy of what we're wanting to see on that project and not otherwise.
Yeah.
I think we have a good feel from council how you want us to proceed on that, and we'll bring some options back to you.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions on the CIP? All right, we'll consider for adoption Resolution 18R01, expressing official intent that certain expenditures to be incurred in connection with certain public works projects and related expenditures for the new police headquarters, Lytle Street Phase 2 project, various street projects, the hotspot program be reimbursed from proceeds of notes, bonds, or other indebtedness to be issued or incurred by the city of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Mr. Tindall, do we need to make an amendment to take that hotspot program off of that resolution?
You haven't passed it yet, so you can just say you would be passing it with it
that
taken
exception.
out.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to pass that with the exception of the hotspot program.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Mayor McFarland.
Aye. All right, board and commission appointments. You do have, I would like to waive, normally we'll give sort of a look-see, but would like, instead of this for a future council agenda, if you would recommend the appointment of Jim Crumley to fill the vacancy left by Rob Lyons on the pension committee, because I think they're going to be meeting not this
In February.
meeting in February, so it'd be good to go ahead and the city manager routinely will serve on that that commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade. Mayor McFarland.
Aye, and then have the reappointment of Mr. D. Jernigan, Mr. Chris Massaro, Mr. Newt Malloy to the Tennis Committee, and reappoint Mr. Boyd Evans and Ms. Kathy Nobles to the Gateway Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, Ms. Wright.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye, you have a few beer permits. Ms. Wright.
You do. We have the annual special event permit application from the Chamber of Commerce for the business after-hours networking events. Those are all in order. And we have a new location for a beer permit at 3138 South Church Street, Suite C, for a new restaurant. That application is in order for the background check. They do need to finish up the building codes inspections before we could issue that permit. Additionally, we have an ownership and name change for a off-premise tobacco and beer location at 2415 Halls Hill Pike, Suite A. Again, their background check is in order, but they do need to finish the building codes inspections. So if you approve that tonight, we will issue those once they have passed those inspections. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions.
If not, I move for approval.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, for call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any statements to be paid?
No, sir, not tonight.
Other business, I've got two items for other business before the staff and city council. One, Mr. Crumley, with council's approval, would like to find some dates that we could have I don't want to call it a retreat, but a discussion to talk about this upcoming year's budget with department heads. If you could schedule that, please.
I will. If you all approve, I'll have Kenya start calling in the morning.
Everyone okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Second thing we need to take into account is Mr. Crumley, as the acting city manager, Ms. Russell, I hate to put you on the spot, but would you mind talking and giving us the interim And then the promotion policy as it is right now would be what that would be as it would the second step.
So the city's promotion, interim pay policy basically states if a position is open and someone's filling that position for a specified amount of time, that they can receive interim pay. That's up to the department head. And that interim pay would be 5% for the first grade and then 2.5% for every grade thereafter. And from the assistant city manager to the city manager, there are 4 grades in between, so it would be a 12.5% increase for Mr. Crumley.
Would this be consistent on how we would handle any other?
It would be. It's consistent with how we handle any interim pay for any other employees.
I can't make a motion, but that would be my recommendation.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Ms. Wright, go call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any other business to come before staff?
I just want to say thank you to council. That's very nice.
Mr. Huddleston.
Good evening, Mayor McFarland, members of council, Sam Huddleston, City Engineering Department. I have 2 items for you tonight under other business related to Fire Station 4. We have some urgency on these, and so we wanted to get them in front of you tonight, knowing that the council would likely not meet for a couple of weeks. First item is a surveying proposal for Huddleston Steel Engineering that we need them to do some surveying during the removal of the waste fill operations at Fire Station 4, so that we'll have an accurate measurement of the waste volumes. That proposal is hourly with an estimated budget of $15,000. Funding would be from the construction funding for Fire Station 4, and I recommend we approve that proposal and authorize the city manager to execute the proposal on behalf of the city. I'd be glad to answer any questions about the surveying proposal.
We're about to make a motion to approve a $15,000 expenditure.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that right? So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, go call the roll.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
And the second item for Fire Station 4 is a proposal from TTL to provide construction phase testing services. The surveying and these testing services were anticipated in our project, and we're just following up with the official proposals. This proposal is for $48,900. I recommend your approval and authorization of the city of the mayor to execute this contract upon approval of the city attorney, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about TTL's construction proposal.
This is a critical part of Fire Station 4. This is the firm that will do the testing of the rock going back in after the excavation of the old landfill material. That rock becomes the foundation for the building for the future, so a critical testing component, and needs to be in place really the first day that we start moving the earth on Station 4.
Mr. Hudson, why are, I assume these things typically just take place in the construction process without us having to.
Oh, we routinely bring construction phase services contracts to you.
Is it typically in consent, or, I mean, we don't do this every time there needs to be a survey made, right?
There are times that they might be in consent, and then there are other times when they come up under a regular agenda. In a lot of cases, we have those contracts or those proposals available to us at the time of construction contract award. We were a little tardy on these because of the holidays and staff vacations and things like that. But generally, we would bring them during the actual project when you're awarding the construction bid, along with
Gotcha.
other construction phase related services.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright.
Vice Mayor Skels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Wade.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? All right, last thing I want to say, we, and Mr. Smotherman would I think, agree with this. We gave out how many awards yesterday, Ms. Jackson? The Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Association won 27 awards at the most recent TRPA, which is the Tennessee Recreation and Parks Association So for cities over 100,000 residents, we won 27 awards, and I think we have won the award as far as best Parks and Recreation system in the state for 100,000 population and above since 2008. Is that right? And Ms. Jackson was quick to tell me the reason we didn't win it in 2007 is because we weren't 100,000 residents yet, or we would have won it in 2007 too. So wanted to just congratulate the Parks and Recreation staff, the numerous volunteers who work at the many different ball fields. Even this past January 1st, we had our New Year's Day 5K, and Councilman Smotherman was there. Councilman Shacklet was there. Again, won the fastest mayor that was in the race. Was the only.
That was the fastest councilman.
Yeah, you were yeah. We were the only ones who ran in the race that were councilmen. So, but it was 8 degrees with a feels-like temperature of -1 or -2, and there were over 300 some odd people who came out to kick off their New Year. So the Parks and Recreation staff were there all bundled up with fire pits for everyone. And so really just wanted to let y'all know how much we appreciate you, and I know how much the residents appreciate our Parks and Recreation system.
And let's don't forget all the people who were crazy enough to jump in the sports com pool this past Saturday for the Polar Bear Plunge. Another great event. We broke the ice. I think it was, 14 degrees or something out there. And tremendous turnout as always, and another phenomenal Parks and Recreation event.
I don't approve.
Right.
All right. Any other business before the council? All right, Mr. Crumley, are we meeting next week?
No, sir. Your acting temporary city manager is going on vacation next Thursday and will be gone for the 18th.
Okay.
So on the 25th, Ms. Moody will be running the meeting.
All righty.
Okay. Councilman Wade had talked about this as well, but Mr. Crumley and I had talked, and I think what we've discussed that all of us get lots of different information on potholes and different things within the city from residents, emails and phone calls. And so I think Mr. Crumley is going to work on a point of contact, so that way it's just not one person that we're sending the information to. So it may be Ms. Moody or however you want that to
I have asked Jennifer to be your first point of contact on all of those daily service-related issues.
Still CC Mr. Crumley, because we want to absolutely keep the city manager involved, but I think that'll give an opportunity to make sure that there's more than one person that can help us with those, WG&S questions on potholes and dips in bridges and different things like that. So that'll give us a little more help with point of contact. All right. Thank y'all. Look forward to a good new year, and we'll stand adjourned.